Sushma Sagar is a trauma surgeon, professor, and head of the Division of Trauma Surgery and Critical Care at the Jayaprakash Narayan Apex Trauma Center, which is the Level 1 Trauma Center at the Premier Institute, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, India. So, without further ado, let's trigger an interesting conversation. I'd like to ask your personal views about 3D printing applications that you perceive are applicable for the trauma center.
Well, Ruchi, like if I go back 30 years when I started my surgical career, that was the time when we used to cut down the designs on a lint piece, and lint pieces and paper used to be our models, and on which we used to put down all our imaginations. But we have come, so long to a day when we are doing the same thing on a metal, on a titanium. And 3D printing, I would say, definitely is a boon, and especially, for trauma surgeons, wherein time is of essence. And many a times, you want to be so protective about your operating time and operating theater that you don't want to waste even a single minute.
So, could you please elaborate a few experiences of yours with a variety of cases, a little bit about the cases that have been done there in the trauma center?
See, a lot of maxillofacial trauma comes here, and over last 15 years, what we have realized is that we have a footfall of almost 70,000 per annum in our emergency department, wherein almost 1,500 cases of trauma surgeries are admitted, and almost 150 to 200 of them are core maxillofacial trauma, wherein we do various kind of reconstructive procedures in the form of either mandibular reconstructions or fracture, could be panfacial or isolated body mandible fractures. But what made our lives difficult was the secondary reconstruction. Patients used to have a lot of comorbidities in the form of that they are coming with a panfacial fracture, and they also have a head injury, also have a liver injury, pancreatic injuries. And at that point of time, face takes a backseat. Apart from the hemorrhage control, rest of the reconstruction takes a backseat. But imagine the sight of a young boy or a young girl who are into the job, who have a job wherein they are interacting with the public on a day-to-day life. All that, it looked a very difficult path. But ultimately, when we operated upon these 3-4 cases like Noor Jahan, Ravit, and other patients, we realized that the outcome has, really given us so much of satisfaction, because we couldn't have never achieved the same results with I would say, a fibular graft or a iliac crest graft, or with a costochondral graft, because the kind of carving, the kind of I would say attachment which is required with them couldn't have been possible. And you always struggle for operation theaters in a trauma setup, wherein every other time you have a non-responder, you have a vascular case. So when it comes to doing a reconstruction for a secondary facial deformity, everybody would say, "Arey yaar, we don't have
exactly.
a slot for you." And when you have a 3D model, 3D printed model with you, and it hardly takes 45 to 50 minutes of operating time. Yeah. But that we should have our own 3D printer based lab, wherein not only for the facial reconstruction, there are hopes for orthopedic surgeons. They can have lot of defects come in the trauma, wherein they have to just put in a chip of bone to reconstruct that long length of the bone for the hip, for the knee joint, or for the other defects. So and then the neurosurgeons, they, after doing their cranioplasties, they have the defects, so they want to cover it with a bone chip or whatever. So I would say the horizon is very big, and we need to have a dedicated 3D lab in our trauma setup, wherein all these desires and all these requirements of all the people can be covered up.
Like in one roof, we are like so many different specialties, which really helps.
Yeah, since ours is a level 1 trauma center, and it's one of the model centers of the country, which was envisaged in the very beginning of its kind, like we are providing MCH students in the trauma, surgery and critical care. So this kind of research experience and this kind of innovative use of technology is very much required for our setup. And since we have working with us neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, and plastic surgeons under one roof. So, and even even for the forensic people, they now with the COVID thing in place, it is very difficult to give the training to the resident on live patients. So even they can have the use of these models for them. So 4 or 5 specialties under one roof can be benefited by this technology.
Be the challenges, because we are in a developing nation, and then there are challenges associated to our nation as well. So how do you see that?
See, cost is a very big challenge for our country, and whenever we talk about these type of innovative technology in our country, everybody asks about, "Arey, this is very costly. How are we going to make it?" I mean, it is very difficult many times for the patients even to buy simple implants, and they depend upon that the hospital should provide them those implants. So cost is one factor, but definitely if more and more people start using it, and if we compare it with the usage of staff, the usage of operating time, and the usage of blood, we can definitely have a cost comparison, and definitely the balance will be more towards the 3D printed models based surgery only. And second challenge I would say is the capacity building, because not many people are trained about it. So we need more and more students and other people to get trained into it. It is not only that the surgeons or the other staffs are trained. We need to have all cadres of people getting trained into this specialty, and then only we can have a better future about this. But definitely for surgeons, I would say it is a big boom. In coming 5 years, earlier, when laparoscopy came in the picture, it started with simulation only, and nowadays, people, they first go to the simulation lab, they learn laparoscopy there, and then they come out on the live patient. So for our country, wherein we have millions of population, so to train each and every person on the same thing would not be possible. So you need to have more and more of such type of labs wherein students can come, they can get themselves trained, they can learn the nitty-gritties of doing the modeling themselves. And then definitely in coming 5 to 10 years, yes, nobody had imagined that laparoscopy would reach to the rural areas also. So similarly, this can also be percolated down to the very ground level in coming 5 to 6 years.
Right, ma'am. So I feel that because in our institute we also have like research as the basis of doing anything. So that's another advantage.
For our hospital, as you're aware, that clinical research and teaching, these are the mandates for our premier institute. So research is a very, very important ingredient of being at the institute. So it has to definitely start from here, and it should develop from here.
Right. Ma'am, anything that I did not ask you there?
One thing I think you didn't ask me is that how I got attracted to this 3D thing. And for that, I would say that you were one of the factors. You had that sparkling idea in your mind, and we started with the fat transfer and mesenchymal thing, and then we reached to this 3D model. And initially you had thought that we will work on the mesenchymal impregnated bone models on the facial reconstruction, and then this idea came. I think we should not forget that. And that is how it started and has now taken a shape of a young baby.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that mention, ma'am. Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure talking to you, and it always is. And I think we'll get back again sometime later.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.